your voice was made to heal your own body. I speak this often. Your voice was made to heal your own body. You, as an instrument, as a resonance chamber, were delivered into this form with every coding in you. So when you speak, when you sing, when you cry, when you scream, not only is it releasing energy from the inside out, but it's actually stabilizing your central nervous system and it's harmonizing your cells into a place of homeostasis. Your body relaxes when it has opportunity to hear itself. And all of a sudden it's written on your face, there's a level of lightness and people aren't asking as many questions because who you be is free.
Hi, welcome back to Bath Time with Kiley Mac. Today we have my dear soul sister and amazing freedom fosterer, LeahLiveFree.
Hello.
And Leah has been in the realms, up and down, all around, all over the world, inspiring women to come back to find their truth, to find their voice, to find their activation, their alignment with the path that they can walk that creates the most freedom for them. You are full of freedom codes and expansion for all of us. So thank you so much for coming today. I'm so happy to have you. It's so fun.
This is the best. This is the freest environment that I could serve in 100%. I'm so happy to be here.
I know, like someday my goal is to have like congresswomen come and like sit in the tub, like, you know, like have like cool conversations with like people in suits, but get them in the tub, like, you know.
No government drip.
Right?
Bring them all back to where we belong.
Right. So we're gonna dive into some pretty fun stuff today. But before we dive into that, how did this find you? How did the freedom code start pouring out of you in a way to you were like, I can't hoard this anymore. I need to share this information. You know, at what point does it become okay? I must share this for the planet. And how did it find you? What has your journey been a little bit?
Thanks for asking.
Yeah.
There's so many ways I feel like I could answer that question. My song has been with me my whole life. As I've shared in other bits and activations, you're very, very, very likely to find some of your truest, freest codes when you visit your inner child and your childhood remembrance of where you've come from, those things that really light you up, that bring you joy. Even if it isn't that exact toy or thing or place, there's an energy that was associated with it that is very often the thread to what is possible for you to step into now. And I'm so fortunate that my voice has always been a piece that has been online for me, with of course different, ebbs and flows and times that it wasn't as alive in my body, or I didn't feel as confident, or I felt more entrenched in my silence. But to know that it was there, even if it was the quietest hum, even if it was giving myself permission to breathe in a way that actually let my breath out, it was always there. I grew up in big sky country in Montana and Idaho, which I speak about, and I don't have ego about a lot of things, but I do have a little ego about being from Montana.
Of course!
She's cool. So when it goes back to, for me, that big land, that big sky, there was a level of smallness, of humility that was bred in that smallness for me, which I feel like you can understand too. And being from such bountiful nature, there's a level of quiet, there's a level of presence, there's a level of observance, there's a level of what is my place in this? Even if you're not contemplating it, your body is acclimating to your surroundings. Take up space. So for me, how to do this was with my breath, was with my sound, was with my movement, which is very much what I've grown into sharing. And those were just my principal offerings. It was like as I grew up, and Leah's at the party or Leah's at the gig, we're usually singing and we're dancing or we're cooking in the back. And my life has been really just a divine series of invitations. And as far as stepping into your purpose goes, and some of the most beautiful and profound facilitators, teachers, world thought leaders, and creators that I've met, their creations come from a place of request. If your people are asking something of you consistently, like, damn, Kylie, you take some neat baths. Like, how can I get in the bath with you, baby? I just want to know.
Girl, how I get in that tub?
How I get in that tub? You're like, damn, I got some purpose here. So for me, it was this like, I want to sing with you. I like the way you create song space. I love the rhythm you hold. When I'm with you, I want to dance. When I'm with you, I feel safe. I wish I had more of this. I wish I had more safe space to be in. And I'm just taking log of these requests, taking log of essentially these invitations from my mirrors to say, hey, just so you know, we see you. This is what we're reflecting from you as a gift, and this is where we'd like to learn from you. And we get to hold these mirrors for each other, which is so profound. So for me, there's one way to say it. I went to one really, really, really intense women's immersion, travel immersion, to share medicine music. And
where at?
In Peru.
Wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I experienced a level of, wow. The word that comes through is like ostracized, like to be ostracized fully in a group space, in a community space. And after years and years and years of sharing gifts and like sharing in small ways in gig spaces and one-on-one consoling spaces and one-on-one healing sessions, I was in a space where I was so uncomfortable. I was so like, there's got to be another way to do this. This isn't fair, which is also that fierce channel that grinds the diamond that will sometimes push you up into your greatness. This isn't fair. Where the fuck is the solution? Excuse me.
Yeah,
but
you're
like,
allowed to create it.
And we get to create it ourselves. So while I was there, it was this, like, I can't believe this. Like, I can't believe that women do this to each other. I can't believe that this is still happening.
Dang.
And it just dropped through, and it was like, if you don't like it, then you lead it.
Oof.
It was like, ooh. Oof. So I went home and I gathered up some sisters. I reached out on my Instagram, and again, another perk of being consistent in any wave of life, like continuing sharing your journey, building community, and putting a pulse out, and just seeing who showed up, and just a handful of people to sit in my bedroom. That's the space I had available at the time.
It was a dope bedroom.
To sit and to share voice work and movement and breath and primitive catharsis work that allows your body to feel that, like, there I am, like whatever that is in your life, there I am. And
I remember.
Yeah. There I am. There she is. There he is. There they are. There I feel myself again. And that can look to so many different people, so many different ways. But for me, the OG, truest of the trues, if we can sing together, if we can dance together, if we can scream together, if we can pray together, not only do all of those pieces within our divine primitive blueprint get activated, but to be witnessed and seen, and that actually builds profound community and gives you opportunity to be reflected in a way that grows you. So to hold space in that way and just listen and watch it grow, and then listen to the ping that goes, actually, we're doing this in Egypt. I need you here on this land. Actually, we're going to be in the deep jungles of Panama because this is what's being asked. Actually, we're going to Big Island, Hawaii to pray with the mountain. We're going to bring this group, and we're going to locate, and we're going to tap into our gifts here. We're going to acclimate our big sound, our big breath, and our big body with big land that can hold us.
Yeah.
And regardless where we are, we're going to bring that frequency, that freedom frequency. So it's a bit about me getting out of the way and just consistently giving to myself in the ways that bring me freedom. And in doing so, from such a place of heart, I'm just really humbled and honored to feel the community and the level of resonance that's been present and the journeys that are unfolding. But I feel so free.
Yay!
Thanks for asking.
Of course. It almost feels like that's kind of like our truest truth in a way.
Yeah.
Like, in a lot of books it talks about like silence is like our ultimate state, which I think yes and, right? Because also like life was created with sound, right? Baby crying or whatever was happening, right? So when you talk about sound and going back to that like primitive primal space in yourself of sound and dance and expression and screaming and crying, these are all facets of our animal that we're in that have completely, almost completely, if not completely, been suppressed or erased to be productive, to live in a certain way, to be more safe, whatever those reasons, add in, insert words here for safety. But I think what's so powerful about the work and why I think it's so needed right now on the planet, and why you got that call to, if you don't like it, lead it. I love that. I think the reason that it's extra potent and powerful right now is because our animal, our primitive, our being remembers. So we tap back in, we're like, oh God, it feels good to be home. Like, oh, this is actually how I keep my engine running. This is how I change my oil of my vehicle. This is how I, and there's always those sayings that say like, oh, you're sick. When was the last time you danced? When was the time you sang? When was the last time you prayed? When was the last time you cried? Right? And with anger, especially, like I love leading rage rituals, and that's been really big in my line of work as well. And I think people are scared. And then once you unleash, man, they don't stop, right? So it's like, and so to me, it's just, I think there's really those potent codes for freedom, but not just in freedom of our spirit, but in our humanness as well. And then to have that connection, not just by yourself on the mountaintop, which it's necessary as well, but to have it in that community and reflection, to be witnessed in that is where I think you're really onto something. Yeah.
And truly to be witnessed. Yeah. Thank you for touching that piece, because I mean, life is so brilliantly orchestrated that even if everything in you were to silence you and say, don't, this is strange, you can't, you give birth, you scream, and you get to that place of that cry in your body, that guttural grief, you're going to hear it.
Yeah.
You make love that is rapturing enough, you're going to hear it. Life will still happen. You will still have those windows into those. It's going to happen for you. That is the nature of being alive.
Yeah.
And I do believe that those peak moments of like, whew, to peel back your petals and to feel that life that courses through you and to feel your place of belonging in it, those moments are available for us at any given moment in the day, any time in our life. And it's just our level of willingness to open up to it. Sort of like, oh yeah, sing a song and dance, it's going to help you. Quite honestly, when you're in the pit of grief, the last thing you might want to do is get up and put on the radio and move your body. It's because you need your own sound.
Yeah.
If you're going to move, if you're going to release, it's going to want to be to that sound that touches it, that orchestrates it, that gives it what it needs. I speak this truth, and your voice was made to heal your own body. I speak this often. Your voice was made to heal your own body. You, as an instrument, as a resonance chamber, were delivered into this form with every coding in you. So when you speak, when you sing, when you cry, when you scream, not only is it releasing energy from the inside out, but it's actually stabilizing your central nervous system, and it's harmonizing your cells into a place of homeostasis. Your body relaxes when it has opportunity to hear itself.
Yeah. That resonates.
Same goes for movement as well. Like that move that always comes through you when you close your eyes, when you get to that peak point of dance. That move, regardless what anybody thinks about that move, regardless how negative it is, like that move is your coding in your system for freedom, for alignment. So the more we get to visit those places and integrate them, embed them in our everyday lives, we're keeping ourselves
towards that like North Star, that truth, that like
we're keeping ourselves, we're tending to the truth of ourselves, we're keeping ourselves in our current.
Yeah. I love that you touched on that, the piece about, especially when you don't want to, is like when you're gonna need to. And I was thinking about the other day, I was in meditation, and so much has been changing in my own personal life. And we talked a little bit before camera about there's so many different changes to the point where it's like, what is there to hold on to? Like so many things melting away. What do you do? Like identity, things that you used to like identify with are no longer what you can identify with anymore. So like, who are you? Where are you left? And I was meditating, and I asked myself, I was like, what is your truth for this next chapter? If you could just have like one feeling that you want to feel, like, what do you want? And I closed my eyes, and I was surprised by what I saw and by what I felt, because my like preconceived notion of what I wanted was gonna be like, oh, I want like a partner, I want this like land, or I want, all these things. And like, while that's a part of it, the word that came was freedom. And I was like, I want freedom. And then I saw what that looked like and felt like I was creative. I was free to create whatever I wanted to create. I was like so creative. I was creating all these videos and things. And that felt like, yes, that's what I want this next chapter to be. And then, talking with you before we got on the camera today, I realized what you just said in the moment of like, you're not always going to want to get up and dance. And to me, it's like, oof, like when I think of freedom, I think of what I felt in that moment of like, oh, I'm free to create and I have financial abundance and the partner is there and the land is here. And that's freedom. And what I forget is, and I'm remembering always, is that freedom is like holy shit, sometimes you didn't choose to be free in this moment. Sometimes the freedom is choosing you, and you're constantly having to surrender and bow into, oh, okay, here we go again. I know nothing, or I don't know what the next step is. I'm just going to sit up right now and take a breath and listen and learn, because I literally can't even see the next step, let alone past Tuesday, let alone beyond, So I'm like, oof, it's kind of this like the full yin and yang of like, oh, all of it. It's all of it for freedom. Because for me, I've always associated freedom as like feels good, but like the work you do, the anger, the things, it doesn't feel good, but it does feel good. And like when things fall away in your life, you're like, it doesn't feel good, but spirit's got my back. I know that life and the universe supports me and has my back, so it has to be happening for me. It doesn't feel like it's happening to me, even though it does feel like it's happening to me, right? And so all of that being encompassed as freedom is something that I don't think I always normally think of when I think of freedom. I think of like, freedom!
Yeah.
You don't think of like, oh, freedom! I don't want to be free. I don't want to not have this anymore. I'm not ready to let go of this. I'm clinging onto this thing, or, right? And so you kind of brought that into my awareness a little bit ago, and just wanted to bring that forward. Yeah.
Thank you. When freedom chooses you. What about that?
Say it again.
When freedom chooses you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just to like focus, we in the bath now, and that's cute, but we were crying not too long.
Yeah, we
And just to tune into, and to speak from transparency, it's like my entire life, everything I've known and created and has felt safe in my system for this last 7 years of my journey. God love those sacred intervals, that sacred 7.
Yeah.
Looking back at it and feeling where I've, without even trying, right? Doesn't matter how connected I am or how evolved or how much I'm releasing in the practices, like my human attaches to relationships, to home spaces, to business offerings, creations, to particular sounds, to particular expressions of myself. And this has been a season of churn for me, just a deep churning. It's been guttural relief. And knowing that I'm also free in this release, and what I shared with you, and I did just to bring it back in, like it's so easy to feel that overwhelm, and especially, just God, the way that life is right now, the way it be, this wave that we're all riding together, that pressure that throbs and you don't even know where, but where. To lean into those safety points in your system, 1, can get you through every time, even if it doesn't feel like the best thing in the world. And 2, knowing that, this is freedom choosing me, and how easy it can be to feel overwhelmed, and how easy it can be to feel victim, and like everything is leaving me right now, and to like let yourself cry, let yourself scream, let yourself go into the hurt of it, but don't get lost there, because what's actually happening is I'm having my whole slate cleaned. And I've been doing my best to lean into the freedom of that. Like I actually get to be completely free in choosing what comes next. It's like traveling. If you've experienced any type of solo travel or time to yourself in a place that you don't know, you arrive with your backpack on your back, and it's who am I choosing to be here? Nobody knows me. I don't know where anything is. All I can do is be guided by my senses. Another reason that I deeply, deeply, deeply resonate with travel as one of the OG freedom codes of all time, just to go and put yourself in a place you've never touched, never experienced, where you don't know a thing. You just find yourself in your humility, and then deliver yourself to your sensory. Where do you eat? What smells good? Who do you speak with? Well, then I learned to read eyes. Who has the kind eyes? Who can I find safety in their eyes? How can I refine my vision that way? So where do I rest? Where do I sleep? Well, what in my system feels safe as I walk around and deliver myself? Like to find yourself free in those moments of choice, of rebuilding, of resyncing with your animal and your sensory, which is so much of this work. God, can it be that simple? Most of the best things, right? Like the best things in the world are. And to remind myself too, like even in the moments that I feel in this last part of my wave, like even my deepest guttural releases that I've ingrained in my system and my body knows give to me, when even those don't feel like they're doing it anymore. Well, my meditation practice isn't
even helping me like it used to. And that thing that I used to eat that always made me feel grounded isn't actually serving me. And wait, the amount of sleep that I thought I needed actually isn't what I need anymore. Even the things I know that I've loved, that have grown me, have built me, aren't supporting me in the way I need them to. So I'm free.
Because I literally have nothing to hold on
So
to.
I'm free.
Anything I was carrying is poof. Yeah.
So it's brand new.
Brand new.
So it's
freedom
untouched.
again and again and again and again. And it's savage. We were talking about how it's fucking savage. Like, and
I'm
that's
like sweating. I'm just savagery. I'm over
right.
sweating.
No, I
This
love
hot
it.
ass boiling.
No, but that's those are the codes. It's like, oof, I remember I was like, ooh, be careful what you wish for. Like, you know, but it's like, no, that is my truest expression of my soul. Like, that's what I want to keep going for. Even though it's guttural and dark and painful and like, sometimes I'm like, I don't think anyone else could handle this. Or like, you know, that's an ego thing. But like, there's moments where you're like, how am I still alive? How am I still alive? Like, literally, how am I still alive? And so to keep pushing through that and to listen and to find, wow, sometimes that's where the most powerful music comes from. Like, I have not been able to stop writing. I have not been able to stop just pouring it out of me because I'm like, it's overflowing. There's nowhere for it to go. Where does it go, right?
It's a masterpiece for the muse.
It's a masterpiece for the muse.
It's a mess, but it's a masterpiece for the muse.
The beautiful masterpiece mess. When we were talking about coming, you know, having this time today, there was this piece that we wanted to talk about, which was voice activation. And you and your power and your magic and your priestessness, Montana priestess, also from other amazing worlds, I'm pretty darn sure.
Buffalo
Some
good.
crystalline
Montana
places.
pristine,
Yeah.
Buffalo good.
Exactly. We were talking about, you know, the pussy throat connection and how powerful that is, or maybe for men, it's just their prostate throat connection. But I think it's so important, and I'd love to get into, you know, asking questions about, you know, how does one begin this practice? So we're saying, you know, sing, we're saying dance, find your inner rhythm. You know, and as a kid, you were singing. Did someone in your family, like, was your grandma singing? It was just coming through you. Yeah. And with that, you know, even just humming can be healing for people. Like, literally the permission to make sound, you know, even in class, telling people, you know, make an audible exhale. 2 out of the 10 people will.
Exactly.
Right. So it's like, oof, like, when were we so told to be silent? When were we so told to not make noise, not take up space, all the things that we've been constantly trying to break down in a way over and over? And what are some of like the practices? I don't want you to give away all of your secret codes, you know, in the tub, but just, you know, 1 or 2 things of, you know, how do you get started? How do you start feeling? Do you put your hands on your belly? You know, what would be a good thing to start with?
Thank you for asking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we got the queen in the tub. We gotta ask, right?
We gotta ask. Oh shoot. These are my methods. This is what works for me. And I mean, I ain't gonna toot my own horn, but I have seen that this has been some of the most efficient work in moving emotion and coming into yourself. So we got some freedom codes. And it starts base level. When it comes to voice activation, the number 1 vocal code is to allow yourself to hear your breath. Truly. You want to hear your voice. You want to feel the power of your throat. You want to know what it feels like to speak your truth. Like, scan yourself throughout your day and notice how many of your breaths are silent. I speak to myself as well. We don't come from a place that they teach us to breathe aloud. We come from a place where we're ridiculed for snoring, for laughing too loudly, for crying in public, for screaming. And if you do those things, when do you do them? You do them when you're acting. You do them when you're on a stage. Or you do them when you're pretending, or when you're shooting, or when you're rooting, or when you're seen for being this thing. But to just your miracle of life that is your breath, truly, to just allow it to be heard. For myself, my headaches and my migraines that have been genetic in my family, the way I've felt them present themselves in my life through headache, through muscle tension, through tightness in my spine, through tightness in my joints, has actually just been a lack of audible breath. When you're taking a big enough breath, you can hear it. You can hear it. If it's big enough, you'll be able to hear it. If it's not big enough, chances are it's silent. Chances are it's stored in your body. chances are it's also stored in your body within all those other little stories and those other little expressions and those other little pieces that aren't getting to fully move. So first off, you want to just drop in on a few audibles for me. And I like to encourage, when we're breathing this way, just to pay a lot of attention, but in a very natural, mindful way, to the mouth, to the jaw, to the tongue, to the teeth, to the gums. Just letting yourself make some sound. Knowing that the breath doesn't have to be one steady stream of it can be without having to know, without having to understand where it comes from. So much of this part of the journey that is stepping into your own spirit and self-integrity and sovereignty is like being able to trace your roots back and know where things come from and follow the story and get to the bottom of things. But like, what happens if you just let it move and that's enough? Like, I don't have to know, oh, well, that sounded like grief, but I don't necessarily feel sad, so why am I that sound is the piece that's trapped underneath everything else. All it needs is a moment to breathe. And so often when you give yourself permission to actually make that sound, or to actually stretch that way, to actually breathe that way, that energy that gets trapped inside of the body that does, if sat for long enough, turn into dis-ease and discomfort, can move very, very efficiently, very easily. That cramp that you had, as I'm sure you've experienced and you shared, with deep belly cramping and bathtub codes, like to go in and to give it sound with breath. Breath is the first deep breath. And then what I love to do is I love to ask my body, and more so than like, what do you have to say, body? But give it permission to sound in the way that it feels. So cramp code, whether it be in your womb or whether it be in your tissues and your bones, for any place of activity that you experience in your life, when you feel that tightness, that tension, to go in and to actually give it a sound. Like, what happens if the pieces of me that I've rejected the most, that are the most uncomfortable, actually have an opportunity to be heard, seen, witnessed, and fully experienced in a way that I choose, have control over? Then you have a relationship with this thing. You're actually getting to experience this thing. It's not trapped. And so often that's all anything really needs to is to move. For a kid to throw a tantrum, you don't have to ask them, what are you feeling? Why are you moving this? You let them scream for 4 minutes and then they're right back to their toys.
Or taking a nap, or they're over it. Yeah. Alchemizing.
It happens quickly.
Oof. Yeah.
Just the breath. It's a big one. Forever who's present with us in this space right now, just permission to find yourself in a way deeper breath.
Wow.
And to open that up at the end of the breath, noticing where the body is warm, if a tone comes. Could sound way different than mine. It might be way higher pitched and maybe way lower pitched.
Mine's so cool. I've never really done this. Whale noises.
Knowing that your mouth is the chamber that the sound is actually formed through. So breath, deep breath, fulfills the low belly. This is your diaphragm. This is the gate that actually pushes the breath through your body, up your resonance chamber, and out through your mouth as sound. When you sing from your chest, very hollow, very unfulfilling. If you scream from your chest, very hollow, very unfulfilling. If you give it to the deep belly, you're touching the deepest pieces of yourself, and you're actually expanding, the integrity of your lungs. They actually need to be full. And then the spirit of your voice is being trained as you breathe into this deep belly.
because I do so much breathing and breath work and right, all these breathings, but like the sounds that come out are either just like humming or chanting or like exhales. But it does take, what I just felt was like, what I normally breathe is like a wave, like an exhale that like comes out. But this was almost like it's coming out, but it was still going up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then it would like go back down. It's like a totally different experience of the breath. So cool.
It breathes you as you're breathing it.
Yeah.
Right? And that's that mystery that comes from sound. Think about your voice, like that we could think of a sound and then make it.
Yeah.
What? It's crazy.
And whoa, you just reminded me of how important our tonality is and our cadence, because I was really into like Michelle and Barack Obama, like back in like 2008. Still, like sorry, but one of his mentors, I might butcher the story, but what I gathered from whatever I remember was he had a mentor that's, you know, he was really like excited and would talk really fast, and the mentor was like, you need to slow down and like take pause. You know how Obama speaks in such a very specific way, Barack, right? And I'm like, whoa, and that's the politician. That's like the being that he wants to be. That's how he wants to be heard. So even the tonality of how you speak, I think, is the permission of also like learning, how do I want to show up? How do I want to speak? And it's not necessarily directly linked to the singing aspect and the toning, but just that feeling of like, how are we moving in the world? What are we sharing? What is our truth? Because I think we were taught as kids, you either had to like speak really fast or speak really loud or don't speak at all. Or, you know,
or
so
speak
where's
so it sounds good.
Or speak so it
Here,
sounds
you want to learn to
good.
sing? Here, sing with the radio. That has been tuned to a frequency that you and your human body 9 times out of 10 are not going to be able to attune to, because it's not your human frequency. It's not your tonality.
Wow.
So to consider, your voice was made to heal your own body, which means your sound is solely for you, which means that we are not doing this to sound good. We're doing it because it sets us free. It's about the feeling. It's how it feels.
That's so true. When I've done medicine work or worked on clients and stuff, there's been multiple times, like for instance, the last time that I sat with grandmother, my friend Blue was really like moving through things, and I could see in her field like what was coming through, and I immediately just grabbed my hand drum, and my hand drum is the only way I've ever like sang. Like for some reason, because it's not about me, it's coming through the drum. I don't feel like it's associated with me, even though I'm making noise, right? Through my voice. And that's the only time that I really, really have sang, minus with my friend Lily Fangs, because she always just gets me singing, who also has migraines, so like on the daily, crazy. But that's the time it was like everything out of the way. I don't care, even though there's like 10 other people in this teepee. I don't care if they know, like this is about my friend Blue, my sister, and she needs this song. And that's when it really feels like, wow, this is medicine to come through, and just channeled this whole song. And then like everyone had paused and was watching, and she was crying. We both were crying by the end. But it's like when we can get out of our own way, it's like, it doesn't matter about what it sounds like. It doesn't matter about what it's like, even if you're just making weird noises, like whatever's coming through is that, if it feels pure and true through that channel, that's what the medicine is. And I feel like what a cool permission slip to be given the chance to play with that, and like permission to make noise. And not that you have to make noise going into a room and like claiming but just like learning that inner medicine, and knowing that it's in you, it's right. And that we have it for each other too.
Exactly. And to get out of the way and let it move is when it actually does get to be medicine. And the truth is, when you're touching the seed of your emotion, the seed of your truth, I can tell you, I love you, and you're not going to feel it as much as if I were to say, Kylie, I love you. I love who you are. Because it comes from my truth. There's so many ways that could be said. But when it's felt, we open to feel, and then we open and we make room to be more receptive. And in that openness, we have the opportunity to actually contribute, which is, gosh, that's why we're here. So in training these opportunities to be heard, to be felt, another freedom code when it comes to voice activation, I love to recommend warm spaces, and like perfectly, like one of my favorite places to sing in the bath and in the shower. And there's a reason that we do this.
We do. Everyone in our house be singing in the shower.
We sing when we're warm. There's There's so much more freedom available when we're warm. So to encourage you to be making these sounds in places that you're warm and you're comfortable, in your bath, in your shower, in your car when you're driving, in your bed when you find that pocket, when you wake up, or when you go to bed, at the tail end or at any point leading up to an orgasm, and any sensuous expression of self, when you're in those places of yes, when your body is lubricated and warm through yoga, stretch practice, anything that brings you to sweat. I'm like, girl, I'm primed right now.
I know.
Woo! This like whole podcast is just a series of me just sweating more.
No, half of the podcast I'm sweating. We're all sweating.
But to give yourself permission to
listening,
to be warm and to make sound from those places, it's also a very healthy way to warm up the voice, so we're not piercing through anything uncomfortable. As the muscles relax and release, we have opportunity to play with our sound. Same with our body. When we're warm, it's a lot more useful to get into the system. And when you're learning, when you're training, when you're acknowledging that these techniques, they're muscles, the muscle of the throat, the muscle of the movement of the body, the muscle memory. We give ourselves opportunities to soften, to be warm, to practice. We build those muscles in a very, very, very good way in integrity. And then when we do show up in other spaces, the muscle memory, the cellular imprint of what it feels like to be warm, to train from that place is already there and available. So to train from these places, and especially water is incredible because water is the OG carrier of life, and also sound and frequency. So to be able to play with like what is buzzing? Like, can you feel it buzzing around you? And if you hear a sound that you don't like, if it feels uncomfortable to the system, knowing that that's energy that needs to move. It's energy that gets to move. It's energy that's moving.
Yeah.
And then as you clean out more of that channel, you're learning to express your sound in a full range. And then you're actually becoming in contact with your true sound, which we call the seed sounds. Those are the sounds that are embedded in every single language, every single word, every single lineage of communication is riddled with these seed sounds, which most primarily look like the vowels, feel like the vowels. So to feel those we can call it light language, whatever you want to call it, to feel yourself touch some of the most pure and pristine either roots or tips of how we be, how we breathe, how we communicate, has a language in and of itself that is particularly for you. Your name being, there's a freedom code, voice activation code number 3. It's your own name. It's your own name. You say one of the greatest gifts that we can give someone in this lifetime is to sing their name to them. And to first sing your own name to yourself, whether this be your given name or a name that you've chosen to claim as yourself that you feel resonance in. There's power in the given name, even if you don't fully feel it. It has been given to you. It is a gift. Doesn't mean you have to carry it, but to make peace with it in that way. But to sing your name to yourself and to feel where the vowels lie within your own name. So for me, Leah, Ia, the Ia. For Kiley, I. And if you were to make that from a warm place, I
just see it's like a little baby. That's fun. Chelsea, fun.
To just wherever you're at right now, just to tune into your own voice, your own sound. These are the cues that actually call ourselves back to ourselves. In that midst of your anxiety attack, in that midst of your rage that boils, in the moment, in the midst of your deepest sadness, in the midst of the time where you feel like you might have had a little bit too much caffeine and you buzzing, but to whatever your name be, and to work with those sounds. You might even form a new name. A new relationship with your name. You might have another sound come through that cues you into this next chapter of whoever you be. But to practice and notice that when we touch these places of truth, it's so easeful to actually deliver yourself to a trance state. These places that you can take so much time to get into the meditation and the discipline and the devotion of that profound and highly recommended as a path and a channel to learn. But to know that when we dance this way, when we sing this way, when we breathe this way, it is your body and its truest current. How easeful it is to zap in. And that you that thinks it can't sing, that sings out of key, that has no rhythm, is suddenly eradicated in the moment of presence with yourself. When you get to feel your own rhythm of what's coming through, and you do it enough, and then all of a sudden you've got a song and you've made your own anthem.
Yeah.
Freedom.
Yeah. I love it. I just felt like in that moment when I literally just said I like 5 times, I literally was taken somewhere. I saw a little baby smiling at me literally in this moment. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna keep that to myself. And then when you said that it almost transmutes you quicker, I was like, you're right. Like chanting always feels good, but I'm chanting in another language. I'm chanting maybe affirmations. I'm chanting in like a rigid, formulated way, which is still dope, but it takes me however many rounds to chant. And even if it's from the depth of my heart.
To build resonance with it.
Exactly. Whereas like when it comes from my cells, literally from my source.
At the taproot.
It literally just felt like, wow, I just said that 5 times and I was like, whoa, like somewhere. Mm-hmm. And like I wanted to keep exploring that. And I was feeling like wanting to pull stuff from my arms, my legs. Like I don't know what was starting to come in. Such please practices, please try this. Like this is.
And it sounds so simple too, and it can sound so silly even, but there's so much medicine in that. There's so much medicine in that. Or if there's an intention that you're cultivating, like you said, when you ask yourself what is the word that comes through, you're surprised to feel the word freedom. Well, what does that feel like if you sing that to yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever that is.
I love that. For me, mine's like a 5-year-old being like, I totally just blasted the mic. Chelsea's cringing. But no, it's like, we did it. Like we're here. And so that expression now of I've been the silent creator doing these things, and the message I keep getting for 10 years and I'm doing it again and again is just share. So to keep sharing from that space and not caring if I mess up or I don't say the exact right word at the exact time, I am trying to always be way more slow and in integrity with every word. Was it 4 weeks ago? Was it 6 weeks? Shoot, I don't know. Okay, so instead of saying 1, I'm going to say it was 4 to 6 weeks ago, somewhere in that window. Like really being mindful because, time perception, at least for me, is like, I'm not the best at that. But something that I really want to touch on, and thank you for just guiding us, like,
wow.
You know who I love is Etta James, and when you were doing your freedom code, I was like, I feel you. I feel like I was raised in her bosom. I'm just like, I always felt that. I do. So when we were chatting about coming on this podcast, we talked about the pussy voice connection, and in a lot of different cultures they talk about, especially in Hinduism, in the chakra system, they talk about how the root chakra and the throat are connected. There's like so many different ways that of course these are connected. Yes, through orgasm, through even when you have a good pee and you've been holding it, you're like, oh yeah. Or like whatever, right? Or you're giving birth, or you're having cramps and you're like, whatever it is. How do you, I think for me, there's pain, which I'm good at. There's pleasure, which I'm starting to get better at. And then there's bliss, which I often can drop into. So for me, it's like pain or bliss, and I'm trying to experience pleasure in the middle.
Bliss,
right?
Bless, yeah, bless you. Thank you for acknowledging that.
Yeah, thank you. And
bless your bliss.
Bless your bliss, honey. I literally wrote that in my journal last night. I was like, bliss and bless. Anyway, side note, but Sadhguru talks about how we're most receptive to like miracles and blessings and all that we want in life when we're in that bliss state. when we feel safe enough to be open, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think something that I struggle with, and I think a lot of people, and maybe women, struggle with is like, you know, the inconsistency maybe of like orgasm, or the inconsistency of like maybe with a partner, or even with yourself, because I notice where I'm blocked, or I notice where I'm like can't get into that state, you know? And do you have any like codes or tools that you use for, not that the outcome, not that the goal is like orgasm, but the goal is like discovering where and through my body can I reach places that have been so suppressed or have experienced so much pain, to like wipe those cobwebs away so it can be set free, so it can experience bliss and pleasure and all these things, you know? And I think sound feels really cool. Like our friend Amir and Reese, Teresa, I remember one time she was talking, she's like, yeah, Amir just like will speak Hebrew into my pussy, like into my punani, like just speak. And like she said, it just like makes her just like vibrate. And I'm sure they're okay with me sharing this because they're family. Yeah. They just had a baby. My Luna has this little candles for. And Phoenix had a baby too.
I keep my breath about baby through couples.
Yeah, and Leah was there for the birth, so that's a whole nother thing, you know? But, you know, was that okay to talk about? We talked about maybe talking about this, and what does that mean to you? The pussy activation throat connection.
Is it okay to talk about this? Is it okay to talk about the thing that comes from my truest place of truth? Is that okay if I show up from here? I'm just curious. Fuck that. The pussy to throat highway. This is the root to your tip. And we speak of this pussy to throat for a few reasons. Predominantly because I have been in a space of women's work and I am in a female relating body. So this is what I know and I can speak to. But to know that this connection, which is that root to tip, is available for any and everybody that bees. So to take that with a grain of salt, but to acknowledge that that root, that pussy, that place that has a mouth, has a throat, which if you were to look at a photo of it or look at it under a microscope, the cervix looks nearly identical to the larynx, which is the base of the throat. The
so true.
And they move in a very similar way.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a nerve that rides just beside the vagus nerve, which is the biggest nerve in the entire body. It runs behind the spine, and it is the ultimate carrier of information, of hormone balancing, of gut stabilization, of mental. It shares all of your currents through your whole body. It connects this brain to your gut brain. And right next to that is a little thread, a little cord that goes from your cervix to your vocal cords. So when you use one, it's vibrating information up or down to the other. So to acknowledge that when if my body's relaxed enough, I can feel that in my root. And when my yoni is open and receptive and dripping, there's a level of warmth that's available in my throat. This is why we moan. This is why we audit. This is why we release. It's a very steady, very, very normal, very, very human, very, very healthy channel. And most of us have been, don't talk about that pussy. Pussy is dirty. We don't want to talk about that. Don't moan. You don't want to be heard. You don't want to be loud. And I'm going to let it in. And there's so much in this well. And it's this highway. It's this miraculously profound carrier of information and transformation in your system that we have potential to tap into at any time. Invitation to even place your finger inside of yourself and feel yourself, not touching or moving, but just holding, very as if you were to just tap on like a peach, just to hold, see the thread right there, and then to hum, and then feel, if you can feel that through your body. Or when you're soft and when you're lubricated, when you're open to touch yourself, and then place your other hand on your throat and notice how the breath feels. Is it warmer? It's building a relationship between the two, which is really your root to tip. It's your foundation. It's your connection to earth. It's your safety system. It's your security system. It's that I'm okay to land here with your truth, with your high point, with your high offering, with your high sight, with your creations you give to the world. So yeah, let's flex that muscle.
Yeah. Let's clear that connection and pathway. How many, like I can already see all the little like calcifications and things. I'm like, come on, clear, you know, but totally.
And just as we're the most receptive when we're in bliss, right? When we're receptive to miracles.
when we're doing something that feels really good and natural, the body can heal efficiently. Me telling you right now to think of going into your womb and thinking about your most traumatic experience and going into it is not a very, one, pleasurable, or two, efficient practice.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was my
work while you're in pleasure. If you're desiring to cultivate more pleasure in your life, acknowledge where you're feeling pleasure already and build from there. I'm really loving what I'm eating right now. Beautiful. How do I bring full presence of sensory awareness to what I'm experiencing? Which, by the way, is the definition of orgasm. Orgasm is not climax. Climax is climax. Orgasm is the ability to be hyper-present within sensation. Which usually orgasm does physically require that of the body. If you don't have awareness to every subtlety, if we haven't trained our muscles to develop that way, then it takes that punch breakthrough moment or that broken bone or that to like make the body feel. But when we work on these practices of subtleties and we get to know our little tonalities and we get to climb that ladder and work those muscles, we become hyper present with our sound, and next thing you know, it becomes a lot more blissful in every moment. So singing in the tub, in the depth of your cramps where there's discomfort, to give it voice, give it sound, let it breathe, let that like, it's that pain pleasure threshold. You can't have one without the other. To explore that little thread, and usually when you give yourself to pain, you're simultaneously giving yourself to pleasure and vice versa. So to give yourself to what is there. If there's pain there, we get to feel the pain, and also with curiosity of exploring the pleasure that is equally right there beside it. So to make room, and again, it's practice. Everything is practice, but to create spaces for yourself where you can feel safe, where you feel present, where you feel warm, and to first begin with the breath, deep breath, then to ask the body how it would express itself through breath, through sound. And then the third step would be to allow your body to move to that nature of that sound and to continue. And as the sound develops, it might become song. It might become a tone of release for your body. It might become a whole pleasure channel. There's breathwork practices and sound practices. You do this enough, you can actually bring yourself to orgasm. So, and knowing that for most people there is pain there. Like that first initial feeling of dropping into that root, whether you be in female resonating body, male resonating body, or anything in between, if you tap into the root, that base cord that is the spine that connects us to earth and life, like it can be really scary down there. To give those sounds voice, to let them move, and you make enough room, and then all of a sudden you explore the low tones, and then there's more capacity to explore what else there is. That's
a key word, like given the room to do it, because that's what I was just, like Dr. Ian Kerner is one of my favorite sex therapists, and he talks about how it takes about like 9 full orgasms for most women to reach climax, and like that's an average that he took over like, I think over 9,000 women or something. And for me, I'm like, oof, when was the last time you had 9 orgasms? Like what? Like to be given the time and the space and the room to actually explore that is not always the formula or the reality. And so like that, like this keeps coming through, that like love is patient. And so like, what does that look like? Because we're like, oh, can we be more patient? Can we create more room? And so in this moment, I'm like, ooh, I can already feel like where in my life, like waking up in the morning and doing that, I want to bring in more sound, that I want to invite more of this in, that I want to create that room to allow for those 9 orgasms to get to the climax, whether it's just sexual or with food, or I'm going to give myself, instead of I have 10 minutes to eat this thing, I'm going to take 30, 40 minutes. I'm going to smell it. I'm going to be weird. I'm going to like feel it, like whatever you can do to really like create that orgasm energy into your day-to-day. Like when I'm putting on lotion in the morning, am I like, okay, I'm good to go? Or like essential oils, go. Or is it like, ooh, essential oils. Oh yeah, do I want this one? Heart, yes. Okay. Oof. And like the adornment process, which creates room. So I love that you use that word room, because I think that's a key piece. I'm just like, cool, I ticked it off today. I did a few tonal things in the morning. No, I like sat with it, and I like created space and allowed for things to come through. And ooh, it kind of tickled, or ooh, I kind of started crying because this thing came up, or I just think that having that space, that room, so.
It's everything. And we can make it in every little moment. And the truth is, like, these sounds, as we practice this muscle, they're seed sounds.
Yeah.
They're tones that are so natural that you almost wouldn't even hear them. If you're going through the grocery store, it's like people have to be really paying attention. You know, for you, this is a vitamin you get to dose yourself with at all times.
Yeah.
And also knowing that most of us don't live alone in like a bathtub palace that we can just like orgasm in all day long all the time.
Yeah.
Like we can. There's this level of consideration of those around us. But as we step into our sovereignty and we step into our instrument, we step into what it means to be resonant with our being in this body, through sound, through movement, through giving ourselves what we need in every given moment, we're setting examples. You know how often, I mean, I'll speak for myself, I'm singing all the time, but like humming and wherever I am, and I'll go into a quiet room and by the time I leave, there's 3 or 4 other people that are then sounding, because we are creatures of harmony. We are creatures of harmony.
Yeah.
So just to know that like you having the orgasm in your room that is louder, that might seem like it's going to irritate your roommate, is actually an expander. And can be tricky when you live with family, right? Because there's levels of consideration in this. But that means the discipline to actually carve the space and to ask for your request. Hey, I'm taking a bath and I'm going to be sounding.
Yeah.
Okay, this is what, and I have to say nothing more. And if you do it enough, it's like, oh, well, this is just something that they do.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it's written on your face. There's a level of lightness and people aren't asking as many questions because who you be is free.
Yeah.
Oh,
thank you so much for being here today. Seriously, I'm really appreciative of the vessel that you're in, how dedicated you are to continually listening. You know, sometimes we get a vision in our head of what things have to look like or be like, and I'm at this point now, so it needs to look like this. And what I really appreciate about you is that you're just continually like open, surrendering, listening, and like really, really taking note of like your inner compass of like, ooh, okay, gotta clean it off today. Oh, we're going a little 2 degrees this way. Man, I really was stoked on that path, but now I'm going up this one. And your ability to just like stay true to yourself and stay true to your path is like one of the greatest gifts and permission slips. So thank you for being a foster of freedom and for sharing the codes and for helping us all remember that the medicine is within us in very real ways, and that's always accessible. It's not, you know, the rattles, the things are so great, and we are the ultimate instrument for our own healing and freedom. So I'm leaving feeling motivated and inspired, keeping this momentum.
I'm leaving just pristine in playfulness with you and like thoroughly pruned and joyful to be in this space. Thank you so much for the container and the equal mirror and the acknowledgement, and thank you for just trying, not even trying, but just like doing your best with me, because this is the only way that we learn.
And best with you.
Just doing our best, you know? We just do our best. We lean into the things we love. We speak from truth. We reflect with each other. And very often it's like your purpose is right there in the bathtub and in the gaze of your dearest sister. Which is but thank you, and thank you to everyone that is here in this intimate and intricate web with us. And I pray that everything that has been absorbed in this space may be received at a cellular level and integrated in a way that is for your highest efficiency and your highest in grace, and at the very least to sing your own name to yourself.
Yeah.
It's such a gift to be here with everybody. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Do you want to end with any sound?
I would love to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
If we just want it together, because it seems to be the mood.
Okay.
To tune into the feeling of the throat and the seed sound and the tone that vibrates the throat from the inside out is the frequency of E. There's actual free done there. Free, me, and my truth. So we're going to just receive a nice deep belly breath. And first we're just going to audible exhale and let it go. On this next inhale, you're going to fill up into the absorption of everything we've just received in the presence of this space, the bliss of this space, the hyper awareness of this space. Thank you. And on the exhale, we're going to tone to the frequency of E in whatever way serves your own body.
That's fun. I couldn't help smiling. Freedom codes with Leah Live Free. Freedom codes.
I need to dance.
Yeah, let's go. Well, thank you so much for tuning into another episode of Bath Time with Kiley Mac. It has been such a portal opening, cool experience, mini dojo experience with my sweet sister, LeahLiveFree, and thank you so much for your continued work and dedication to your path. And thanks for coming on. If you have any questions, please reach out. We'll have all of your information linked below. And in the meantime, if you're singing and doing weird stuff, definitely tag Leah and myself. We'll be joining you with that. And if nothing else, I hope this leaves you feeling lighter and brighter and more connected to your own body, your own instrument of medicine that is within you. Don't be afraid to make noise. Please, if there's one thing you do before you die, let yourself hear your voice, let yourself hear your sound. We're doing it together. We're all relearning and remembering together. So we're in this, fam. Love you so much.
Live free, baby.
Live free.